Hang on. Okay, now I'd like to welcome everybody out to our commission meeting. This is August 21st, 2024. If you all please stand and repeat the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll jump right into our agenda. First on the agenda is approval of minutes. Commissioners, we have one set of minutes from the August 7th, 2024 meeting. Do we have any corrections?
I see none.
I saw none either. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the minutes from the August 7th commission meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 2 on the agenda is neighbor to neighbor disaster response kit. Tianna Peacock, if you'll please come to the mic and tell us what you got going on. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tianna Peacock. I want to introduce myself and the community service project I started, Neighbor to Neighbor Disaster Response. While preparing for my project, I became aware of the Price Stake doing a similar project. So we teamed up and I'm helping them get together 3,000 kits to cover their stake boundaries. So I created the kits and they did a lot of background work, talking to Justin Needles and things like that. And so we've collaborated and created those. So I designed them and they are the way they are now because of that collaboration. And they've also, Price Stake has also talked to other emergency response teams to let them know of our intentions with the project. These kits are designed to help neighbors and EMS quickly determine the safety status of a household and see who needs help and can help others. We don't want this to be a church service project, rather a community one because of how important it is for the county. Just this summer, we've had fires, flooding, and these kits could have helped immensely to get help to those who needed it. So our goal is to get a kit into every household in the county. As of right now, half of Westwood has been distributed, and we're working on getting the others done as well. I've set a date up with Spring Glen neighborhood as well. We have ideas for fundraising, and mostly we just want to let your council be aware of our goals. I will turn the time over to Brent Wilson, a volunteer for this project.
Okay, I have been working, I'm the one in the Price Stake that's been working on this. I've been working on it for several months, and just recently I was made aware that there was a wonderful young lady that was working on this as well. So I contacted her and very impressed with what she's doing. The nice thing about it is while this is a priority for the Price Stake, over half of the people who live in our boundaries are not members of our church. We recognize that. And what I really like about Tianna, first of all, Tianna's very well thought through her program. And she is the possibility that she could be the face of this program to the community rather than the church. I've talked to the leadership of our church and of our stake, and they really like the idea that we would have somebody that is a community volunteer that is helping this out. And so I encouraged her to come talk to you and just sort of maybe get some kind of a validation approval from the county commission for the program so that she is officially, unofficially working as a volunteer for the county to do this rather than, so she has that sort of legitimacy. I talked to Justin Needles. His department does not have funding to support it. So far it has been funds that either Tianna has raised or has come through the areas that she has distributed it already. She's also talking about fundraising through other community organizations as well. but anything that the county could also contribute would be greatly appreciated. Talking to Justin Needles, I asked him how many first responders we have in the county. He said around 50. If we have a major disaster, say a derailment, something happens on the highway, the chemical spill or something like that, those 50 people would have to canvass the whole county, trying to find out what the condition is, who's injured, who needs attention. If we can get this program off the ground where the neighborhoods would gather that information, pass it on to Justin Needles and his department, then he can make sure the first responders, instead of driving all over the county trying to find out where the problems are, he can send them directly to where the problem areas are, and they can leave the areas that are known to be clear and safe alone. So I would ask you to support Tianna's project in any way that you see fit. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have maybe a couple questions for either one of you. That do you know about how many doors there would be in the county, and would you include like we have the apartment complexes over here? How do you accommodate that? Do you have any idea of how many door or households this would include?
According to the Census Bureau, what was it, about 8,000 to 9,000?
Okay.
We have we just estimated for the price stake 3,000. That's probably overkill, but that's also for when people need new kits and things like that. But one of our coordinators in one of the wards has she's in the 9th ward, which is over the includes the apartments behind Walmart, and she's talked to the apartment managers about as they come in, as people come in, because they're very transitory. As people come in, she would the apartment management office would actually have the packets, and that would be part of their in-processing. And then when they leave, they would turn those back in. And we also include a statement on there: if you sell your house, please leave the packet in your house, so that would that can be recycled. But
We can also like send files and get them reprinted and get those stuff distributed if people move away.
yeah, Carbon Print and Design has graciously agreed to help us out at a very generous cost for each of the packets. So
Do you have a cost estimate?
About 70 cents per
70 cents per kit. And then I think the other real thing, something that you're going to have to overcome is the education piece. It might go well in a church organization, but how do you reach all the other churches or all the other organizations? How do you reach every household so that they understand what and how, and then also the first responders? The first responders, I think, will become a little bit easier if this is adopted countywide. Mm-hmm. Have you talked with any of the cities? Because again, the majority of the houses are within city boundaries as compared to county households.
Again, we've talked to Justin Needles. He's been involved from the beginning. But no, we have not so far talked to any of the cities. We're starting with the county just. Perfect. But yes, cities would be on the list, as well as far as education goes. If you look at the kit, there's a lot of explanation in there. But I don't know. Do you have any plans for an education?
Yeah, we could also like put out ads in the newspaper and for the movie theater and on the radio. We can just kind of get the word out more and just do booths at fairs and things just so that people are more aware of it.
Any other questions?
No, you touched on kind of what I was going to ask too, is the cost, and have you given out about 3,000, or that's just kind of the goal to get out right now? I know living out in Westwood, I have one.
Yeah,
so
yeah, 3,000.
I'll share this one.
3,000 is in the price stake, so up 4th East, all the way into the Cove, and all the way to the east, and to Old Wellington Road. Yeah, it's pretty much,
So,
and the part first south and down to the railroad tracks is pretty much
so do you
that.
have
But we
kids?
haven't given them out yet.
Okay.
The carbon print is currently has an order for 3,000 from us. Our stake has a plan to pay for them, but there are a lot of other communities that need it. And again, this would be great to be a community initiative. It just happens to be because of the geographic nature of the organization of the church. It's easy for us to do that. I have talked to Ascension St. Matthew, Pastor Angela, about emergency preparedness. Her committee is very much on board. She points out that most of them are median age is 70 years old. So, they can't really man chainsaws and those kind of things, but said there is space for all community organizations and members to help out with food, with shelter, with numerous things as well. And I've talked to Tianna about, and she has plans to go to other organizations. I know I've talked with her to the American Legion. We're sort of on vacation until September, but she already has an appointment with the veterans. Talk to them about it, but make it a full community thing and not just one part of the community.
Perfect. Go ahead.
So the only thing I was going to ask, so you have about 3,000 in the work right now, and you need roughly about 5,000 or 6,000 more. That's what you need the donations for. Is that additional 5,000 or 6,000? Okay.
So,
Great.
So basically, yeah, it makes our EMS much more responsive, and so they can save lives rather than try to find out what's going on. But I think it also can bring our community together by bringing different organizations together that normally do not talk.
Perfect. I think it's important to include the cities mostly because about half or so of the emergency responders, fire departments, the police forces are going to be some of those first responders, as well as like when we had flooding a few years ago, we tasked county employees, we pulled them off of the current work that they were doing and we sent them out to go canvass neighborhoods to see who was affected. So, and I'm sure the cities probably do similar things. So I think it's important to include the cities so that they understand the program and can utilize it the best.
I was just going to say, I think it's a good idea. We probably could work to help you with something. I think it would be good for everybody here and those online to see that there's 4 cards that looks like you would put that in your window if you need help. It's a red one. You need help soon. I guess you're a volunteer.
Yeah, so if you are safe and ready to help others, like if you want to volunteer.
And then a green one that shows that your home is safe and you don't need any help. So that would help anybody, whether it's neighbors or first responders, to know if you're needing help or not.
And the organization is, you would have a neighborhood captain, a block captain. It would go through with the check sheet and just look at every house that would be passed up the chain. The way the church would do is it would go to the bishop and the stake president, but it would also go to, the same time that we're sending it to the stake president, it would go to Justin Needles, so that he would have that instantly. So it splits, so that the EMS, and we can also do that with the cities. So we can organize that so that goes to the city emergency response teams as well. So as soon as there's an emergency, and we would also have drills, where on a certain day we would have an emergency in the county or in the city. Everyone would put a sign up, and we would get all that information and see how well it flows to who needs it. So that's like step 2. We just get the packets out first.
Perfect. I think it's a great project. It's a heavy lift. In all disclosure, Tianna is my niece. So any motions to vote on things I'll abstain from, as it's one of her projects. So Any other thoughts or questions?
I think with what's on the agenda, there's probably not a vote, but a commitment to come back and let's work through it. Doesn't look like it's an expensive thing, so happy to help.
Yeah, she's gotten further with this in the, I don't know, a few months that she's been doing it than I did in the 6-8 months that I've been trying to do it. So I'm glad to have her helping me out. So.
Well, congratulations and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Item number 3 on the agenda, review and possible approval of Carbon County Trails Committee bylaws. Tina, welcome.
Hello, Commissioners. If you recall, we hired Jones and DeMille back in April to do our trails coordination for us, and they've been very busy doing different meetings, meeting with user groups, meeting with public land managers, and gathering a lot of information. With that, they've also come up with and proposed the Carbon County Trails Committee bylaws. There were some conversations back and forth that involved different people, and so this is the final of the bylaws. Just to highlight, the purpose of the committee is to advise and work in partnership with the jurisdictions and land managers within Carbon County in the planning, maintaining, and developing of the trail systems. So once the committee is built, then these are the bylaws that they would follow. So
I've reviewed them. I think that they'll serve. We had a trails committee 2 years ago. It kind of went defunct. I like having a formal process. That was kind of an ad hoc committee. They did a great job. The work they did was awesome. I like having a little more structure under it. It'll help us with funding, I think, down the road.
I have no questions. I'm prepared to make a motion. Tony?
Nope.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the Carbon County Trails Committee bylaws.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you,
Thanks for all your
Commissioners.
work on that. Item number 4, Manti-La Sal Forest update on forest plan revision. Josey Muse. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to step in for a minute. My name is Barbara Van Alstein. I'm the new forest supervisor for the Manti-La Sal. I've been here since January in an acting role, and I accepted the permanent position in July. And I am closing out a house tomorrow, so very excited about that. Have yet to do my cross-country move. I've worked for the Forest Service for 36 years. And for the last 16-ish years, I've been in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan on the Ottawa National Forest as a district ranger. So I'm excited to, take the Manti-La Sal and hopefully accomplish lots of good things. And, knowing that we sit in the same in price with you all. So we are kind of neighbors and collaborate on many things, I imagine. And so part of that, we have been working on our forest plan for quite a long time. And we are not yet to the point of signing anything, but we have an update, and we have not been to the counties, in a while. Definitely, since I got here in January. I don't know the last time we went to the counties for updates.
It would be before I was here as well, so.
Okay.
And before August of 2023, when we came out with our draft EIS.
Okay. And so we are right now, still operating under our 1986 forest plan, which is, quite old, and has been amended many times. So it does not look like the plan that was passed in 86. So our hope is that this plan will be something, God, I hope it doesn't have to last for 40 years, but I do hope that it is a good plan and that we can accomplish lots of good things. So to that end, Josey has a PowerPoint that we'll go through and would accept any questions. And I do have business cards, just in case we need to hold me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see the PowerPoint
I
on
hear
the
it warming up,
screen.
and I don't have it on our screens.
Okay.
Tell if the light's on. Moments like this is usually when we get HR up here to tell us jokes or something. So kind of fill the space.
Do you have it up on your screen, Seth? I'm not seeing it over here yet.
I did email a copy if you can access that.
I can hear it, but I don't see it.
Tell us. Lights are on now. Probably starts off a picture of a mountain with trees all over and
You're spot on. That is the
Some
first slide.
wildlife
It's
streams.
beautiful.
this drags out too long, I'll be telling dad jokes. There, just turned on for a second. The light flashed on for a second there. Whatever you did. Now there's a green or a red light on.
It's not working from here. I hear it again.
Got a light.
There we go.
It's not on our screens up here yet. There we go. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, and thank you, commissioners. Okay, so this first slide is contact information for our forest leadership, which includes Barbara that's here with us tonight and our district rangers across the forest. My contact information is there as well as the rest of the planning team. So please reach out to us directly if you have any questions in the future. And to just start with some geographic context of the Manti-La Sal National Forest, we are located in the Intermountain region of the Forest Service in central and southeastern Utah and a very small portion of southwest Colorado. Forest lands span 1.3 million acres. We have 5 ranger districts. We have what we, oops, let me hit the back. I won't use the mouse here. So we have what we call our North Zone, which includes the San Pete, Farron, and Price Ranger districts. And then our South Zone, which has our Moab Ranger District and Monticello Ranger District. We are within 10 counties. 8 of those counties are in the state of Utah and 2 within Colorado. And there are 2 wilderness areas. One in our North Zone, which is the Nelson Mountain Wilderness Area in our Farron Ranger District. And we have the Dark Canyon Wilderness Area in our Monticello Ranger District. And the Monticello Ranger District lies within the Bears Ears National Monument, which is a better portion of that ranger district. So some background on the process of our public involvement on the forest plan revision to date. So this process started in 2016 when we published a notice of initiation of assessment. That assessment looked at our 1986 forest plan, which, as Barbara mentioned, has been amended 23 times. And it assessed the need for change to drive the forest plan revision process. We released that assessment for public comment and received around 900 comments, with over half of those comments directly related to the recommended wilderness evaluation. In August of 2021, we published the notice of intent to prepare a draft environmental impact statement. And at that time, we also provided a very draft forest plan for public comment. That forest plan was based on the assessment findings, which focused on ecological resilience, support for traditional and cultural ways of life, and sustainable recreation. During that comment period, we received over 6,300 comments. And then last year, in August of 2023, we published the notice of availability of the draft environmental impact statement and an updated forest plan that was based on the previous comment period. We received around 820 comment letters, with about half of those unique, and we've extracted over 2,000 comments from those letters. We summarized those comments into around 200 comment categories, and that is where we're at right now in the process. We are doing content analysis and comment response based on the comments that we received. So this slide highlights the major themes of those comment categories. Our local and state governments and local communities are concerned with roads and public access, local economies, watershed health and protection, as well as vegetation restoration, wildlife habitat. We received many comments in support of heritage and cultural protections, as well as grazing traditional uses and timber harvest. A lot of our commenters are concerned with the ability to continue to use over snow use vehicles such as snowmobiles, as well as winter and summer recreation opportunity spectrum areas. We received comments both for and against recommended wilderness, wild and scenic rivers, as well as for and against the conservation alternative. And the conservation alternative was a citizen-submitted alternative that was not analyzed as a standalone alternative in our draft EIS. However, we did take components of that alternative that complied with law, regulation, and policy, and have included those components across the span of alternatives that we analyzed. So throughout this process, since 2016, we've been working with our partners as well as cooperating agencies. That includes the Utah and Colorado state delegations. We were requested for formal consultation with 10 nations, tribes, and pueblos, 10 counties, both in Utah and Colorado, our 7 conservation districts, 4 cities, and our federal partners, the National Park Service and Bureau of Land Management, as well as the Utah Public Lands Policy Coordinating Office. We will continue to coordinate and have update meetings with all of our partners and cooperating agencies through the process to our final documentation. So for timeline and moving forward, as I mentioned, we're currently working on our content analysis and comment response, and we're preparing our final EIS and final plan. We are working on an appendix that does a crosswalk of our cooperating agencies' resource management plans and the final plan, and we'll provide that to our cooperating agencies in future meetings. We've also had ongoing tribal consultations since 2016, and will continue to do so prior to the release of the final documents. Once those items are complete, we will conduct our regional office reviews as well as Washington office reviews. And I want to mention that there are two other planning efforts that are ongoing at the same time, which is our Bears Ears National Monument Plan and the National Old Growth Amendment that the Washington office is preparing. We do need to wait for both of those decisions before we can continue with our final documents, because those decisions are going to amend our 1986 plan, which will then carry over into our final plan and final EIS. We expect decisions on those two efforts in January of 2025. So the outlook now is that in 2025, we will have our final EIS, our final plan, and a draft record of decision, and it will be available for a 60-day notice of opportunity to object. Prior to the release of those documents to the public, there will be a 2-week review period for our cooperating agencies. This slide provides 2 links. The top link will take you to our project webpage, our planning webpage, and you will find all of the documents that have been released to the public for review since 2016. And the second link is ArcGIS that anyone can access. It's a great program where you can pull up each alternative of the draft EIS and overlay those polygons with the forest and see how they differ. All right, so that's the end of the presentation, and we're open for questions and comments.
How closely does your plan align with the counties? Again, that you're dealing with multiple counties, their counties' resource management plans.
That is what we're doing right now, where we're doing that crosswalk and building the appendix right now. So what I found up to this point is that the state plan and the local plans are very similar. But until we get through that process, I really can't give you the numbers, but we are trying to, meet those plans as much as possible for consistency.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Oh, I just appreciate you coming and sharing this information with us, and hopefully we can kind of keep this open dialogue going. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 on the agenda is consideration of possible approval of a request from Price River Water Improvement District for a waiver of all fees associated with the plan review, permits, inspections, and all other aspects of the building of their new service center. Please come to the mic and state your name, and just so we can get it on the record.
I'm Jeff Richens with Price River Water Improvement District. Just to correct the agenda, we're not building a new service center. We're building a new maintenance building east of the existing service center.
Thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions, comments, thoughts? Just for the, I guess, the public record, the fees and that would be associated with this building come out to about $8,952-ish, somewhere in there. That's what we would be waiving. We typically do that for other governmental agencies that we do inspections for. Comes out of the taxpayers' dollars anyway.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think we've done this in the past, and I'd be okay doing it.
And is this a project that'll be starting anytime soon, or when do you expect to?
Well, we have already purchased the building. It's in pieces waiting to be shipped. We opened bids for the contractor to put the concrete in the ground and stand the building up. That will be awarded our first meeting in September, which is, I think, the 3rd of September. So the building ought to be shipped sometime within 2 weeks after that. I'm hoping by cold weather, the concrete's in the ground, the building's standing, and probably insulated. We may not be ready to move in till in the spring, but at least we can get it weather tight before cold weather.
Okay. Great. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the request from Price River Water Improvement District for waiver of all fees associated with their plan review, permits, inspections, and all other aspects of the building.
We have a motion?
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
Item number 6, discussion and possible approval of using Carbon County reserves for land purchase. Commissioner Jensen, do you kind of want to explain this one and lead off?
Yeah, I don't think it's a secret that we're struggling with high taxes. There's lots of opinions in the county of how we fix that, but the reality is the only way to fix that is not by reducing tax, but by adding industries that will take the place of the lost revenue from the coal mines and the power plant in East Carbon. In Castlegate. So with that in mind, we have spent thousands of hours over the last 7 years or so working on every angle to make it possible for industry to move here. And as we run into roadblocks with potential industries, it highlights some of the needs that are in place. We made an offer on some property, I don't know, a year and a half ago, out along Ridge Road that borders the rail spur leading to the Savage coal loadout. And we put together a plan of how we could purchase that. And we asked Congressman Curtis's office to put a request in for a appropriation grant. The amount of that grant was approved through Congress and through the federal government. We were told that the money would not be available until the federal government had a budget, and the continuing resolutions that they've been continuing to add to over time, we weren't sure when we would ever see that, but there was a bill put forward with some money that was allocated for this pot of money. There are 2,300 projects in the pot of money that has been approved, and we've been waiting for instructions from the federal government on what the requirements will be in order to access that money. And the further down the line we've gotten, we've become aware that there are some difficult hurdles with the federal money that would make it difficult clear into the future for us to really use that money. One of the big deals would be is the property. If we take the money, we could never sell any of the property. It would have to be leased. And the experts that are helping us have indicated that when an industry puts together their financial package, the entire amount of a lease, which could be 100 years, has to be added to the front end of the finance package. Not that the money has to be brought forward, but it creates a problem for those that want to come. Yeah, creates a problem for the finance people to invest in it. And so there are multiple layers of reporting that would be ongoing forever with this project. And so that's made us look close at whether we should actually take that money or not. And so we've weighed options of what could we do if we don't take the grant money. Part of our deal was that we were going to use $1.4 million of our COVID money to purchase the water that came with this property, and then the federal government would bring the $2.85 million. So the bottom line is we're faced with the dilemma now of, do we take the federal money or don't we? And it's become pretty evident in my mind that we shouldn't take that government grant just because of the strings that are attached to it that never go away. The experts are recommending that we don't take the federal money. And so with that in mind, as we've looked at our money that we have, where can we come up with the money? And I think for the public to be aware that we have received several one-time pots of money that we have been very careful with and hesitated to spend for anything other than economic development. And those funds would be, for the last 5 years, we've been selling surplus property of the county. That has brought in $1.4 million. We sold the old senior center, the old weed and mosquito building, the old animal shelter building, the Horizon Mine property on the mountain, and property at the 4 Mile Hill Industrial Park. And that's accumulated $1.4 million. And these aren't exact numbers, they're rounded. We also have received from the federal government $2.4 million in extra PILT payments, so payment in lieu of tax. The federal government owns a large portion of our county, and because there's no tax derived from the government properties, they give us a payment. And in Washington, there's a lobbyist that works to help a lot of rural counties like ours. And with all the forest fires that have happened in Carbon County over the last 15 years and the costs the county has encountered because of those fires, the federal government has taken some pressure because of the neglect on their part of managing forests. And so this is a payment that they've made in a 2-year period. And it's about $2.4 million that's come in there. We also had our COVID money. There was around $4 million of that. And we used some of that to help us get through COVID, but the bulk of it was authorized to be used for things locally that would help, including economic development type things. And so one thing that we did with that money is install a sewer line into this property that we anticipated being an industrial park. Even before we considered purchasing the land, the plans were in place for installing this sewer line, and that was a $1.8 million endeavor. So I think I don't know if there's anything to add to the history at that point.
I think the only thing to add would be that we've been working with the Inland Port Authority of Utah to create a project area, which includes all of this land that we're talking about, plus some of the other land around Savage and on the other side of the rail spur as part of that package of economic development. So it all kind of ties together, and they bring together, we met with them yesterday, they bring to the table some funding packages, some public infrastructure development opportunities, and some financing that could help a project get off the ground if we develop a project like this. Anything else?
And one thing I'd like to touch on, and Commissioner Hopes knows this better, not to get into the weeds, but just centrally and locally assessed taxes. As we've lost the coal mines, the power plants, as Commissioner Jensen referred to earlier too, those entities were paying the bulk share of our taxes. And now that they're gone, which we have a meeting with the State Tax Association, the centrally assessed has dropped significantly, like almost $1 billion since you took office. And then that's out of our control. Those are some of the larger companies in this area, some that employ a lot of people around here. Those companies are having their taxes lowered. So what happens in return is the citizens have to assume that load. So what we've looked at and what we've thought is economic development, as we have more industry move in here, as more jobs are created, as houses are built, that helps lower the tax for everybody. So, somebody could look at this and say, well, why don't you just put that money in right now and lower our taxes? Well, this is a long-term endeavor. It's taken a lot of years for that centrally assessed to drop, and it's going to take some time to get some industry back in here and kind of reverse that mode. So we have been focused on economic development. We have been very frugal. And to me, this is very important. It's very crucial. And being that we have the state, the inland port, and a few industries that are just chomping at the bit, ready to come in, to me, this is a wise investment in the future of this county.
I think maybe just a little more, the legal ability for us to spend money for purchasing a property. We've consulted with our attorneys, and it's very well in line with the authority that we have. And anything to add, Christian, from your point
It's
of
always
view?
dangerous to ask an attorney if he has anything to add. But yes, just a little bit. I just want the public to be aware of what I've told you, and that is there's some specific state codes that govern the acquisition of property, and those provisions are different than the codes about disposing of property. Just briefly, Utah Code annotated section 175312 states that a county may purchase, receive, hold, or otherwise acquire any real property or any interest in such property if the action is in the public interest and complies with other law. So that's the first hurdle, is it in the public interest? In my opinion, and this is backed by examples of other counties doing the same thing across the state, but acquiring property for future economic development is in the public interest. And frankly, sometimes government can do a better job than the public sector in that it can lay out or make sure that property is systematically developed in a way so that, for example, if an industrial park were to be put in, it can make sure it utilizes all the parcels out those properties and sells them to different entities in a way that ensures that all the resources on the property are going to be utilized to their ultimate advantage. Whereas if property is simply sold to the public, sometimes you get a lot of buyers with cross purposes buying property that doesn't really allow for the property to be fully utilized and developed to its greatest economic extent. So I would submit that what you're doing here is very much within the public interest. It also says, though, that must comply with other law. 1750-302 provides that other law. It says a county may acquire real property by, among other things, purchase, contract, or gift, and hold the real property as necessary and proper for county purposes. Well, what are county purposes? No statute specifically defines county purposes, but earlier in that same statute, it talks about county powers, and it says a county may provide a service, exercise a power, or perform a function that is reasonably related to the safety, health, morals, and welfare of county inhabitants, except as limited or prohibited by statute. Again, it's clear the state legislature wants to give county
commissions counties generally broad authority to provide services and perform functions that will ultimately go to the best welfare of county inhabitants. I think you'd be backed. I don't think anyone would say that an economic development plan is not part of providing for the welfare of county inhabitants. So it's my opinion, as I've looked at this and talked about it with you and with Lynn, that your acquisition of this property is fully within your legal rights and abilities to do that. And I think it's important the public should know that we've looked at this closely because we are aware that it's a significant amount of money. But ultimately, as you've described, this will allow for a permanent tax base, hopefully, as opposed to just a temporary tax break that eventually goes away. So I find that what you're doing is fully authorized by law.
Thank you.
If I might add, and I won't be here when this is all developed out, but it would be my hope that as companies come in and develop, that the taxes would, the way that taxes work is any new development on that property comes in as new growth, and the county would just, and the other taxing entities would receive more money. It would be my hope that the taxing entities, if it's a large enough project and it's of big enough value, you could take portions of that in new growth to help the counties and the other taxing entities with their budgets, but also take some of that as it's not, how would you state it? Just it would actually go in as regular taxes, and it would actually reduce the rate. So everybody else, it would split the pie a little bit differently, and everybody would be paying a little bit less.
Yeah, we essentially would reduce our budget in an amount equal to what we didn't want to take as new growth. We just wanted to reduce the tax burden on taxpayers.
In essence, we would be replacing the power plant, the taxes that the power plant paid with these new properties. So it's something for the commissions in the future to take a look at and to see if they can't reduce some of the tax burden on the citizens.
I think that's our whole goal here. When we look at where we're at in our county, and the biggest challenge really for most everybody right now is the tax that's has to be paid. And maybe just a little history. In 2019, we had public hearings about raising one tax for the unincorporated folks in the county. So everyone that lived outside of the city limits of Helper, Price, Wellington, and East Carbon, their taxes were raised in the municipal fund. And then that took effect in 2020. Carbon County School District had a bond election that same year that raised all of our taxes to do the remodeling of the high school and Helper Junior High. And I don't know what other school, but that was a big chunk that all of us paid extra. And this year, you will see an increase in your Price River Water Improvement District tax. So we get blamed for it all as a county, and we don't take that money, and people misunderstand when they think that just because the amount they pay goes up, it's like we have raised their tax and we get more money. We don't get more money. The school district does not get more money. Price River Water Improvement District will get more money this year. But there's a need for us to find some new industry. And Shanny Wilson, our economic development director, is working hard to make sure there's no stone unturned in trying to figure out how we can satisfy the needs of folks who are looking at a place to locate. And we're getting close. We have 2 companies currently right now that would like to buy property. And part of the reason we're here tonight talking about this is that if we took the federal money, it might take us another year to have that money in hand, because there's a lot of things they would make us do before we could get the money. And these companies need a place to land. So I'm of the opinion that it would be a very, very good investment for the future, moving way out into the future, for this property to be purchased using county money, and that would give us control of how that gets developed. We would not allow for people to buy property there on speculation. They've got to have a project before we would ever entertain the sale of property there. So we have control of that. Now, if we didn't buy the property, it would be in the hands of a landowner that's just interested in selling parcels off. And the very first parcel that's been sold by the landowner now has created a dead-end street that needed to go through this project. And really, that's why, for me, it was like, we can't do this. We have to somehow have control over how this property is developed. It includes 307 acres. Most all of this is under irrigation. The water that's been used to irrigate the farm is part of what we're buying. So this money here would be to purchase an additional 200 shares of Scofield Reservoir water and the 307 acres of property.
One last thing to mention too, that the only project, or the only, what is this area called?
Project area, the industrial park?
Industrial park. The only industrial park that the county had previous to this had all of the parcels have been now sold out, and we don't have any land as an incentive for anybody that would come into the county. We sold that last parcel last year for a new building for one of the local businesses here to be able to expand. So this creating a new industrial park, especially along the rail, I think is important.
And again, to touch on it too, with the Utah Inland Port, that brings a lot of validity to this project. It's kind of exciting. Again, we've been frugal for so many years. To spend money is a little bit unnerving, but it is the right thing to do in my mind, and it is going to be great for economic development.
And maybe just one other thought, if these dollars were used to reduce our taxes, it would be gone in a year or two. And then we would literally have to raise taxes again in order to operate. So it's not really an option. A question? Yes, so it's east of the Savage Coal Terminal. The rail spur that leads to Savage, this property is on the east side of that track. And it runs nearly the full length of the usable property on the east side of the track.
If you have questions, please come to the mic, just so we can get the recording, and also state your name for the record.
Brent Wilson, I know the answer to this, but just for the record, can you explain what an inland port is and what it does? What benefit it would have to the county? Just so people that are listening know.
Yeah, it's not quite what it was originally set up for, but the Utah Inland Port Authority was created, and a board was formed to try and have the state of Utah be a crossroads of the West when it comes to delivering products to everybody around us. And the ports on the ocean, on the east or the west coast, they're kind of at capacity. And the projection is that the amount of goods being brought in from other countries, imported here, it's very difficult for those ports to handle all the materials. So normally they would take them off the boat, they would sort, open, and inspect to make sure there's not problems being shipped into the country. Then they would sort that and put it on trucks, and it would be delivered, for example, to Salt Lake and Denver and Arizona. And so the idea would be to bring the train right out on the coast, load those containers on the train, and bring those containers on the train to Utah and have them inspected and opened and sorted and put in trucks to be distributed through the area here. But that's kind of gone to a second priority, and now their goal is just to go out into rural Utah and literally spend the money that's been allocated in putting infrastructure in to help get industry out into rural Utah.
My understanding is also that the inland ports also, because the customs aren't paid until the containers are all, so you can have a zone there, inland port, where they can do manufacturing on products that are brought in that have not been, you didn't have to pay customs on the imported products. You make the products here in Price, in Carbon County, and then you ship them back out overseas. You don't have to pay customs on the inbound, but we have local businesses that can make products and export them back out. So that's another benefit, having an inland port.
And there's quite a few benefits tax-wise to it.
Thank you. Do you have any other discussion?
I don't.
I'll make the motion that we approve the expenditure of our funds to purchase this property, and a second part of that would be to authorize Lynn, our attorney, to begin drawing up the legal paperwork to make this transaction happen.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you for the discussion. Item number 7, consideration possible adoption of ordinance 580, a change to the Carbon County zoning district map from Watershed or WS to Scofield Lakeshore or SL on parcels 2A-0186-0003 and 2A-0185-0007. Todd, do you want to explain this? This came to planning and zoning. It received a favorable review, my understanding.
Yeah, so it came to our meeting just a couple weeks ago. They reviewed it. The property is located on the west side of the reservoir along Dry Valley Road, just south of Scofield West community. It was owned by Lazy CP Partnership and Robert Paneer. Mr. John Hendrickson purchased the property and has requested the zone change. During the review of the zone change, we had an online participant, Miss Gail Hunting. She had some concerns about the development. She owns property just north and a little bit west of this particular parcel. So she was a little bit concerned about it. We listened to her concerns. This property, Mr. Henderson has also purchased a couple years ago property to the west to include into a development, with the potential of developing of cabins and other amenities for people to purchase and to use. So it'll be kind of part of the same development as his overall ideas. With it being along Scofield Reservoir, it meets better the lakeshore zone, which is similar to Scofield West, Scofield Campsite, and the Blotus. The density won't be as dense if you were to develop it. We have new rules that doesn't allow things to be that dense like Campsite and Blotus, but to be a little bit, they can be a little bit smaller lots compared to like Aspen Cove and some of the other ones that have 1 acre, 2 acre, or 3 acre lots. You can go a little bit smaller and offset that with some open space if he chooses to develop it that way.
Questions?
I attended that planning and zoning meeting, and it seemed like the pushback was not so much for the development per se, but just overcrowding is what they were concerned about. And it seemed to me that the plan that Mr. Hendrickson put together would not overcrowd. The code as well that the county has wouldn't allow that. So there was some negotiation as well. We're not going to put houses underwater on the lake on that property, right? It'll all be above water.
Yep.
That's a whole nother subject of why there's landowners under the lake, but I appreciate Mr. Hendrickson's plan and vision for this area. Looks very exciting, very appealing.
And we have, in our development code, we have standards for developments. So this is the zone change. Conceptually, there's some ideas behind it, but all the water, sewer, traffic has to meet the county standards. So if anything were to be done, it has to be reviewed by county staff and also by state staff for water development, septic sewer development. So there are some standards that are in there that they have to meet no matter what they do. And if they can't meet the standards, they can't move forward. But that's all through different ordinances and that the commission has adopted that we will enforce going forward, just like any regular subdivision. So it's a little bit different because it's a private water system and those other things where it wouldn't be part of private. So they'd have to follow a lot more state code requirements and meet all of their inspections and everything else if they were there to move forward.
I have no questions.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 580, a change to the Carbon County zoning district map for Watershed to Scofield Lakeshore on parcel 2A-0186-0003 and 2A-0185-0007.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you.
Thanks, John.
Item number 8, review and possible approval of contract with LensLock for body-worn camera and ICV or in-car video services for the Carbon County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening, gentlemen. So currently, the Sheriff's Office utilizes WatchGuard. WatchGuard is a company that provides those type of materials, those type of technology for in-car cameras and body-worn cameras. However, in 2019, July of 2019, they were bought out by Motorola. And we've noticed since that time that we've lost some of our support and our equipment is becoming antiquated. So we felt we needed to look into a better solution, as this is a very important technology for our deputies. So we, of course, with any project with taxpayer dollars, we took a frugal approach and reached out to IT. We found the IT department to be very tenacious in their approach to getting information, and their expertise was very much needed in this case. So it was our inclination to just go out and get quotes rather than do the sealed bid process. We ended up with 5 quotes from 3 different companies. And the advantage to this is simply the companies that we reached out to are companies that met our criteria. So Axion, for their in-cloud program, it's $40,043 per year for 5 years for a total of $200,218. Now they're on premise, which there's a difference between data storage in the cloud or on the premise. If it's on premise, we have it on our premise, but it costs us money to store it in the cloud. It's much cheaper. Their on premise is $54,000 per year for 5 years for $272,697 for their 5-year total. Motorola, which is in essence who we currently have with WatchGuard, Their in cloud was 58,587 for year one, and then 36,807 for years 3 through 5, for a grand total of $2,817. Now their on premise was 165,852 for year one, and 14,817 for years 3 through 5. And so that's a total of $225,124 for their 5-year total. LensLock is the last one I'm going to speak on. And that's the one that we actually want to go with. We found their equipment to be very compatible to our needs. LensLock only has the cloud option. It's $36,671 for 5 years. Per year for 5 years. So that's $178,355 for the 5-year total. We know this is an ongoing expense, but it is very necessary in our world, and with the way of the world today without body worn cameras. Right now, it's such an advantage to have, we have two perspectives. You have the in-car that's on. So anytime that police car gets over 80 miles an hour, that camera's on. And it's showing you all the data. It's showing you the speed of the car. It's showing you everything. And then when the officer gets out, his body worn camera's on. These are quality products. Barry and his crew did the research on them and feel like it's a good way to go.
Questions?
I guess I know.
That's quite a tenacious list there you got.
Yeah, we're very prepared.
But the frugal part of that would be obviously not just the camera itself, but how it's used. And, do you have an inclination how you'd like to which one you'd like to go with?
Yeah, I want to go with LensLock, and with that frugal approach, we realize it's a 5-year investment, and that seems to be the not only the best deal, but it seems like the best equipment with good service. So right now, that'd be a good question for Barry. It's going to be based off of Motorola, though, because Motorola owns WatchGuard. WatchGuard is no longer, and that's what we currently have. So Motorola is one of those quotes.
And they were quite a bit higher.
200.
So right now you're paying that higher price?
No, right now we have no support. We have WatchGuard and antiquated equipment. So we don't have the support. So Barry's storing our data, and it's getting out of control.
So I guess my only question is, we don't have anything in front of us, but it sounds like there's enough of enough paperwork to document why you're buying, or why we would buy from this or commit to this company.
Absolutely, yeah. And these are really the only 3 companies that meet any criteria that would meet our needs. So that's basically what there is those 3.
I would be okay making a motion. If there's any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
I think what I would make a motion that we approve this contract with LensLock after you put that stuff together and get it to Casey, Commissioner Hopes, and make sure we've got copies of that for the clerk's office.
You should
have that from that email.
I think it was emailed out. I thought I emailed it out. Lynn, did you get that?
No.
Okay,
I sent it to you today.
I got your email today that just had the contract, but not all the other quotes.
Oh, okay.
So, I guess
Barry has all
based on the review to award that to them.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 9, consideration of possible approval of interlocal agreements with local cities for indigent defense services. Commissioners, last year we entered into an agreement with all of the cities to do a cooperative indigent defense service. This is the same contract. It was a 1-year contract, kind of a test run of how that indigent defense service would go. The county is the managing organization in that, and then we contract with the cities and work with the the defenders, the public defenders, to provide that service for the cities. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. And that's what this is. So there's one for East Carbon City, Price City, Wellington City, and Helper.
And Commissioner, this is just an extension or an ongoing agreement, just being renewed.
Correct. We do receive a grant from the Indigent Defense Commission that pays the majority of this cost. It was up just a little bit, and we included Price City's grant amount in our grant amount to provide this service. And so the majority of the money comes from, about half the money comes from the Indigent Defense Commission to provide this service. And they like it because it's multiple agencies coming together, multiple organizations coming together, and they don't have to do a whole bunch of one-offs. We take care of the agreements with the cities.
Great.
No questions.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement with the local cities for indigent public defense services.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 10, adjourn as the Carbon County Board of Commissioners and convene as the Carbon County Board of Equalization.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn as the Carbon County Board of Commissioners and convene as the Carbon County Board of Equalization.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now the Board of Equalization. Before us, Commissioners, we have 38 parcels that have been reviewed, stipulations, I guess I should say, that have been reviewed both by Assessor Bishop and also Kevin Ewell, who is our private assessor that's helped in that office for the last year. They've reviewed them. I had a few questions. I've had those since answered as we were preparing for the meeting, and I'm okay with what's been presented to us. Are there any other questions or any concerns with this list?
I don't have any.
I do not either.
I'll make the motion that we approve the 38 assessor-initiated adjustments that have been put to us for the Board of Equalization.
We have a motion?
Lynn, for the record, just a clarification, do we want to read these parcel numbers or just enter that into the record?
I don't think it needs to be read out loud. We can just enter them in if, get them to Lori.
Okay. I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Again, just before we close, I just want to reiterate how important it is for you to take a look at your tax notices, make sure that everything's correct. If you have questions or concerns about your value, or if something was put on your notice in error, please bring those into the clerk's office, fill out all the proper paperwork, have evidence, whether it's an factual error, like they added a basement and you don't have a basement, those kinds of things, or if you don't disagree with the value, please bring that evidence with you as you fill out the paperwork, and you'll get put into the queue to either have a stipulation meeting with the assessor or sign up for a day to meet with the Board of Equalization and a hearing officer. Anything else to add?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adjourn as the Carbon County Board of Equalization and convene as the Carbon County Board of Commissioners.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll entertain one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
So